Well, here we are. It is Friday, September 26, 2025. It's Friday, of course, and each week, as you know, we take a look and see what's been going on in the antique market, in particular the Asian art and antique market, but also we look at other things too, American furniture, European furniture, and so forth. And Asia Week, as you know, wrapped up last week, and I think overall everybody should be very pleased with how it went. The sales results were pretty much strong across the board, despite all of the concerns that were leading up to it. A lot of people were wondering, was this going to be a good Asia week? Were the prices going to be strong? Were things going to sell? And from auction house to auction house, we saw good participation, strong prices on the rarities, good prices on the sort of mid-range stuff that most people collect. And I think overall everybody should be really, really happy. And now we're on to the fall. And there's a number of good sales that have turned up in the last week. Bronx has a good sale coming up with some very good American furniture, as well as some armorial wares. And there's some other sales coming along too. And my friend Josh Chamberlain got a hold of me the other day and wanted to let me know that he's putting some things up on eBay. Chamberlain Antiques. We're going to go through some of those, some nice looking things. Actually, he got a collection somewhere, and he's posting them on the site. And as you know, he doesn't do reserves or anything, so it's an opportunity there. But we'll get to those later. But first, I want to go through some results and talk a little bit how things went last week. One of the things I wanted to mention was I think I may have gotten the bargain of the week. This popped up on my radar a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's on the global pages, and it was being sold by Aqaba down in where are they located? In Dana Beach, Florida. And they had mislisted this as a 20th century incense burner. It's not. This is a late Ming to Qing incense burner. It's a very nice one. It's about 6 inches in diameter. And I threw about $700 on it, and I got it for the opening bid. It's the way it goes sometimes. Very pleased to get it. As you know, I like monochromes. I like odd little pieces, and this was one of them. There's the interior of it, and that's not the inside of any 20th century incense burner I've ever seen, nor the bottom. I pointed it out to a few people, and I guess for whatever reason they didn't chase it, and I left a bid on it, and bang, got it. And I think I just heard from the shipping people this morning. It's going to be, I think they said $47 to pick it up, pack it, and ship it up from Florida to Massachusetts. So again, they have some. It's the local UPS store down there. That's who you always want to deal with. I know the package ship places are there too, but UPS stores I find universally or more uniformly have the best shipping rates for art and antiques that can be put into reasonably small boxes and so forth. This isn't going to take a big box, obviously, but I think the shipping was very reasonable, and I think all in, under $100. How can you go wrong with that? So that was a good thing. I was pretty happy about that. And the other things I want to mention that the Aqaba sale had was this. You may remember we talked about this was a very nice coral snuff bottle. They had listed it as a perfume bottle. I don't think it is. I think it's a snuff bottle, but very nicely carved. And in the end, it did fine. It brought pretty much what we had sort of estimated when we talked about it. We thought $800 to $1,200. It ended up going for $900 plus the premium. So it came in all in and done at about $1,100. Good price for it, but it's a very nice piece of coral. I don't think it was an overpay. I think it was sort of a wholesale, dealer price is what was paid for this. This was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And like I said, $900. The starting price was $25, and it jumped to $900, and that was the end of it right there. All right. And then the little 18th century brush pot that we mentioned a few weeks ago that was not dissimilar from a pair of them that had sold for about $1,600 for the two. And this one went through. This was a sale up in Canada, and it ended up Stunning Arts Auction and Appraisals, and it ended up going for $610 plus the premium, or about $800. So it's right in the range that they typically sell in. But I think this was a particularly nice one. The one that I think that we saw, the two that we talked about before, they went through Stair Gallery. They were very good. I'm not putting them down at all, but I thought this was a better example and a better value because the color was better, the definition was better, and it brought around the same price. So whoever got it, bravo. You're going to have to ship it out of Canada, but a Canadian shipping isn't too bad these days. And I don't know what the tax situation is because it's Chinese goods, but coming out of Canada I don't know. that's something you have to work through. But it shouldn't be too bad either way. Either way, it might be an extra $50 or something in shipping. And then hopping along over to this, we talked about this a few weeks ago. The Chunchi, sort of an alms bowl. I thought it was awfully nice. It was estimated at 3,000 to 5,000. Very beautifully done. I thought this was a wonderful bowl. This was at Tenmuku, had this up for sale the other day. Just closed. When did this close? It closed yesterday, I think it was. Or the day before. It closed recently. And it went for $35 plus the premium, or around $4,500. So it came in sort of at the high estimate. But this was an awfully nice piece of late Ming ware. Beautifully done. And it's got immortals on it, which is very desirable subject matter, as you all know. And they had the original receipt for it when it was bought and so forth. And I thought it was just a nice piece of porcelain. Beautiful ceramic, nice size. It was what was it? It was 8 inches, 8 and 5/8 inches, almost 8.5 inches, a little over 8.5 inches wide. So it was a pretty good sized bowl. It wasn't a cup or anything. I thought that was a good thing. And hopping along over to that table, this was the one that the fellow that owned it, it was the consignor, sent me an inquiry about it because the auction house had originally put it in the catalog. This was down at Atlanta. They had put it in as a Japanese table, and he wanted to know what I thought. He did it through the inquiry service. I wrote him back. I sent him the little reply video back and said, no, this is a Chinese table. It's a really good one. And we talked about it last week. I thought it was an excellent example of trying to trade. I mentioned this I showed it on the Patreon video this week. And the reason is that this is a strong price for China trade furniture. And overall, I think it's riding that wave that we're starting to see. I hope it lasts, of furniture, brown wood, not only Chinese wood and furniture, but even Western furniture, is doing pretty well in the market these days. There's good, strong prices seem to be coming up. There seems to be some real interest in fine furniture and fine art again, which I'm very grateful to see. If you can afford it, why live with crappy factory furniture when you could buy beautiful handcrafted antiques that've got history, that are great patinas, and they're made of woods you can't buy anymore. That's the other thing a lot of people don't realize when they're looking at furniture. A lot of the woods that you see today in furniture are hybridized woods. They're fast growth woods, fast growth mahoganies. They're not the old walnuts, the old mahoganies that grew slowly and developed beautiful figuring and color. And you just don't get that out of the new woods. That's all there is to it. Because they don't exist anymore. And these wonderful China trade tables, and this one was so beautifully carved. I just absolutely loved it. But I think that there is a trend, and I believe it is happening. And this was a great table, and I thought it would bring 4,000 or 5,000. I thought that would be for China trade, given what they've been selling for lately. I thought, 4,000 or 5,000. But I did tell them it's Chinese, and they changed it to Chinese, and a lot of people really got excited about it. It went from having about 20 watches to over almost 100 in just a couple of days. I mean, I don't know if it was all our viewers or whatever. It got a lot of attention. It was a beautiful piece of furniture. Was 10,000 too much for it? No. It really isn't. Not when you look at it in detail and look at the quality of the wood. It actually ended up being, with the buyer's premium, about $13,000. But great piece of furniture, and that's not as much as it would have brought 30 years ago, or in the 90s rather, when China trade furniture was really hot. This table would have probably sold for 20, 25,000 back then. It does seem that there is a lift in the values of these, because other similar tables like this in the fairly recent past have sold for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Suddenly there's a jump, and this benefited from it. But it's worth every penny. It's got a rare top. It's a wonderful thing, and I probably talked about it too much, but I love this kind of furniture. So beautiful. And the Japanese Rita vase, they had put this in actually as Chinese, and I told them, it's Japanese, it'll do fine. Just get the right name on it. And in the end, with the premium, it brought about $2,200. It measured around 50 inches tall. Beautiful piece of porcelain. And the stone dish that they listed as Persian. I don't know how they sort of got mixed up, I guess, doing their attributions of country. This was listed as Persian because it had inscriptions on it. We talked about it last week. And this is a Chinese dish. The more I looked at it, the more I'm convinced. The decoration, the secondary decor, there's nothing Persian on this other than Arabic script. And as you all know, the export era, the Chinese often put Arabic script on all kinds of Chinese things that they had made and were shipping to the Middle East right through the end of the 19th century. Rose medallion bowls have Arabic on them sometimes, that sort of thing. At any rate, this one I think was a relative bargain. I think if they had pushed it as Chinese, I think it would have probably brought $1,000. It ended up going for $375 plus the premium, or close to probably $450, $500 all in and done. Still a wonderful thing, and it was big, and it was a big piece. It was 16 inches in diameter, 16 and a half inches wide, but a good thing nonetheless. All right, and then over to this. We mentioned this little bowl a few weeks ago. This was down at Casco Bay up in Freeport, Maine. It closed about 5 days ago. Yeah, it closed last weekend, I guess. And it was a very, very pretty little bowl. And we talked about it just because I liked the way it was divided, the way it was the paneling on the sides. There was a good bit of gilding missing off of it, but it still had gilding. And most likely Kangxi period, and ended up doing fine. It ended up going for about $650 with the premium, but it was a very, very pretty piece of porcelain. I liked that a lot. I thought it was just a nice little bowl. What was it? 7.5 inches in diameter. So it was, it had some decent size to it actually. 7.5 inches isn't bad for one of these, and I think it was a relatively good, very good buy still, because it's unusual shape and form. So forth. So that sort of wraps it up. And I mentioned at the beginning that my friend Josh Chamberlain's got a sale coming up, and he's got a number of pieces. I'm going to walk through some of them. This is a very nice Guangxu period saucer with the silk balls on it. I think the sale goes up tonight, Friday the 26th. I'm pretty sure he's listing them tonight, and there'll be no reserve. And I think he starts all of them at $9 or $5 or some ridiculous price. At any rate, this is a very nice looking example. All of these came out of a collection. There's the back of it, the mark and so forth, the Guangxu mark. And there's this very good piece of Kinkozan Satsuma. It's a nice looking charger with a pair of wood ducks on it. There's the mark on the bottom. A nice looking Langyao copper red 18th century bowl. It's not marked, but it's absolutely 18th century. Here's the back of it. Looks absolutely fine. It's got very nice color. It's got this copper red bowl has really, really nice color. It's very thick. If you look down here, you can see all the bubbles in it and so forth. Here's the edge. It looks good. The color of the paste looks very, very good and so forth. That's a nice thing. And then there's this. Now, this is a silver cloisonné vase. And he said it is marked on the bottom, but he couldn't find the maker. But it's an awfully nice example. It's beautifully done, very almost Art Nouveau looking, but nice soft colors, beautiful celadon greens in many, many shades and so forth. Good bit of enameling on that. Here's the bottom of it. And he looked this mark up, and he couldn't find it anywhere. I'm sure it's listed. I'm sure it's somewhere out there. If you get the listing, you might be able to have more luck with the name than he did. But it's got metal mounts on it and so forth. And then this nice piece of Yi Xing, naturalistic root form and so forth. It could be 18th century. It's certainly 19th century. Beautiful even glaze on it. There's no mark. A late 18th century apple green, sort of a double gourd vase. This was quite nice. Very good color. Really good color on this. Very bright, very cheerful color, and nicely potted. Very delicately potted right to the top. And it looks fine. And then there's this. This is a what's his name? The famous blue and white. What the heck is his name? I just had it and it's gone from my head. Hold on a minute. Hold on. God, I can't believe I forgot the name already. Hold on a second. Makuzo Kozan. Jesus, I was thinking Kinkozan and then Kozan. Anyway, I'm relaxing too much up here, I guess. But at any rate, an awfully nice piece of porcelain, blue and white, lovely, lovely Kozan example, and it is fully signed on the bottom. There's the signature. All right, and then this is a nice mixed metal piece, Japanese, of course, silver and gold, good looking Meiji period bronze. And there's the bottom of that 18th century pot, looks fine to me, and so forth. So the number of things, I think he's got a lot more than this, but he asked me if I would mention it, and I said I would. So there we are. He's an old friend. And now on to what's coming up, Brunks. Brunks has a couple of really interesting sales coming up. If you like American furniture, rare American furniture, and you like rare English and rare decorative arts in England, as well as China trade, they have a 2-day sale coming up. They're calling it their Premier Autumn Auctions, and they've got some really great pieces in this sale. Really, really great. We're going to go through some of them just to give you some idea. Let's see here. Oh, no, wait a minute. We're not there yet. Hold on. I'm screwing this up today. I'm all over the place. We got to finish up a couple of sales results first. We'll get back to Brunks in a second. Hold on. Lion and Turnbull had a sale this past week, and this was in it. And this was they listed this as an Indo-Persian brass trunk. I believe it's just Persian. I don't think it's from India. And I think this was a steel. This was a trunk. This was a big trunk. It was 45 inches long. It's a pretty good sized piece of brass. Beautifully done. Appears to be 18th century or so. Great patina on it. I do not believe this was Indian. I believe this was from Persia. And it was beautifully done. The problem with Lion and Turnbull is they only put up one photograph. I don't get it. I don't get the one photograph stinginess with these guys. Especially some of the bigger dealers do it. I don't know why. They've got the people there. For heaven's sakes, for God's sakes, more people look on Live Auctioneers than look on your site. So put up lots of pictures. Lots of pictures. Drives me crazy. It just drives me absolutely nuts. I don't understand the laziness. And that's all it is. It's just plain laziness. It doesn't cost that much extra. Just do it. You can get people to come to your site and bid if you want them to bid through your platform, but your platform is nowhere near as big as Live Auctioneers. It's simple as that. You may have good buyers on your site, but if you have a website and you sell on the internet and you use Live Auctioneers, use all of it. All right, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's I noticed Christie's and some of these companies, they use Live Auctioneers for preview only. Yeah, great. Throw up some more barriers. Make it as hard as you can, folks. Killing it. Anyway, this was, I think, a steal. It went for $560 plus the premium, or around $700. Beautiful, beautiful thing. It was 64 centimeters. Okay, this was bigger than that. It was 64 centimeters tall. So it was over 2 feet tall, and it was 97 centimeters long. So it was about 3 feet long, 49 centimeters deep. This was a big piece of metalwork, beautifully done, and I think an absolute steal. And I think this market is gonna eventually become an expensive market. Whoever bought this, if they hang on to it for a few years, I think is going to make a lot of money with it, because there is interest in India and in Persia increasingly in the Middle Eastern countries in buying back more and more of their art, as well as in India itself. Both these areas have been sort of neglected over the years, in more recent years, and I think there's a growing demand, and we'll see. All right, and then over to this. Now, this is a sale that's coming up at Malay Brothers, and this is the estate of Iris Apfel. And I talked about it on Patreon this week. Iris Apfel, as many of you know, died a year or two ago. She was 102 years old or something. And she was one of the great, you talk about influencers. She was one of the great influencers of design and taste. She was a tastemaker. She was an interior decorator. She had a great eye. She came from a very, very interesting background. She came up from nothing. She came up through the hard knocks all the way up through, and she was famous for wearing gigantic glasses. And Iris Apfel had done work for the White House, the State Department, interior design, selecting fabrics, picking out things. She's just one of these ubiquitous people around New York and everywhere else. She was raised in upstate New York, and her parents immigrated from Russia. And anyway, she died. And she had this fabulous collection of very decorative stuff. She had great stuff. She was famous for her jewelry. She had a very famous costume jewelry collection. She began collecting costume jewelry back in the 1930s, in the early 30s, I believe. Yeah, she was a teenager. And This is just some of the things. They got this. It's a very nice jade-handled mirror from her house. And I may come back and do a video and talk more about her collection. She had really eclectic stuff. She had a great eye. She apparently liked mirrors a lot because she had this one also. And this is one that's done with enamels on silver with a jadeite fruit on the bat, and then you have a butterfly, and then a very nice jadeite handle. Some good-looking stuff. It's very, very attractive. And some of the pieces in her collection were displayed at the Newark Museum at one point. They did a show. She has some. She had some rank badges, military rank badges. She had a number of them, and they're in the sale as well. All right, I think maybe we can put some up here. We'll get to it in a minute if it's here. The other thing I wanted to mention was Carl Nordblom here in Massachusetts has a sale coming up, and he's got some China trade stuff in it as always. And there are a few things in it particularly nice. One of them is a silver bowl down here on the lower left, and these platters are quite good. They're very, very good. They're not the standard China trade platters, and there's a nice late 19th century lacquered screen and so forth. We'll just take a quick look at some of them. Here's the screen. It's a good one. It's a decorative thing mostly. It's extremely impactful visually, and the back of it is done. I think the back of it's pretty wonderful itself. I almost like the back as much as the front. It's a grove of bamboo and other trees with rocky outcroppings at the bottoms and so forth, and birds and so forth flying around. So you could enjoy both sides of the screen pretty well. It's awfully nicely done, and it's estimated at, it's really reasonable estimate, $1,500 to $2,000, opening bid of $750. And this is a pretty big screen. It's 8 feet tall. This is a big screen, and each panel is 20 inches wide. So it's going to cover some real estate in the living room, but it would make for a pretty glitzy living room, I think, or dining room perhaps. It would look awfully nice. And also in the sale is this. Now this was a bowl that was a China trade bowl or Chinese silver bowl that was made for the export market during the 19th century. And it's got a couple of inscriptions on it. Down here it says from AEB to somebody. And then down below I think it's a later inscription that this was gifted to somebody for a promotion, for a naval promotion. The recipient was elevated up from, Chief Petty Officer. But I think it was repurposed. I have a feeling that the AEB to HS may have been somebody else, because this guy's name was presented to Henry Lyman's. So there's no HL on that monogram. So I got a feeling that this had belonged to somebody, and somebody in their family got a very nice promotion. Maybe this was his grandparents or something. And you could probably, if you bought it, you could probably do the homework on it and figure out who he was. And then it was re-gifted. And it's a wonderful pair of dragon-handled bowls with Chinese export silver tongs to them with lotus leaf ends. You notice that they have lotus leaves on the ends. They're quite attractive, and it's estimated $1,000 to $1,500. It is hallmarked. You can look it up in the silver book if you want, and the starting price of $500. But it's a good-looking thing. And then over here, these platters. These are big. Now, these platters, often when they're shown like this, people think, well, they're 8 or 10 inches. These are both very big plates. They're 17 inches in diameter and extremely good quality decoration. These are about as good as they get. Notice the outer edge decoration of all these little flowers dancing along the rim, and then this very good deep sapphire blue, cobalt blue inner border with the cross hatching and so forth, diaper pattern, and then you have these great big blossoming flowers in the willow tree over here, but very good color. The color on both of these is quite excellent. Very, very good, and the color is what really makes them. And I think the estimate's very reasonable, $500 to $700 for the two of them. Keeping in mind these are 17 inches wide, and they are a true pair. Just great quality. The other thing that's coming up is this. This is at Abel Auctions in Los Angeles. This sale is on the 28th. It's on Sunday this week. Remember, they're the ones that have the Korean things. There's some very nice Korean ceramics. There's 4 good Korean lots in this sale. And one of them, of course, is this Ascending Red-Headed Heron. It's got an old gilt repair at the top. But who cares? It's Kintsugi repair. It looks fine. But this is a very finely painted example. much, much better than most, and probably dates to the 19th century. It's a nice looking thing. And also is this, the brush pot. Now, this brush pot, I did a looking on this. This was offered at Christie's a few years ago with a I think it was a $12,000 to $14,000 estimate, or a $14,000 to $16,000 estimate. It had a big estimate. It's the same exact piece. We checked it very carefully. It is the same one. And it's in this sale now, with a $1,000 to $2,000 estimate. So whoever had it finally just gave up the ghost and sold it. Now, was it worth $12,000 to $14,000? I think it probably was. But the Korean market, as you know, is very, very soft. But I think this poses a real opportunity for somebody if they want to chase it. All right. And then this, the Kangxi Charger. This is coming up at Marquis de Santos. A beautiful example. Wonderful. They got some very good pieces. This sale is tomorrow. This is just a reminder. I know a number of you are looking at it, so just don't forget it. Remember, it's Europe, so it starts earlier than you think. And here are the rank badges from the Apfel collection. Here they are. These are the two of them. And these were exhibited in Newark in a show. They're very nicely done. Very delicately done. There's several other badges in here. All right, and I think we're going to revisit this auction, just go through it sort of as a fun preview. The sale is on the 16th of October, but it's a nice looking thing. And then this pair of Kangxi Amari tankards. This is Hutchinson and Scott over in the UK, has the sale coming up. And he's got a pair of these tankards. And pairs of tankards don't turn up all that often from the Kangxi period. And if you're a Kangxi buyer, and you like the pattern, the flowers coming out of the vases and so forth, with good Amari palette and so forth, and they look like they're in good shape. Of course, you always want to get a condition report, but they look like nice pieces. They look like good things, and the estimate's more than reasonable. 200 to 300 pounds for the pair, £100 opening bid. So far, they only have 2 people watching it. Now, the sale is on the 14th of October. They may pick up quite a few more viewers by then. But lately, I've noticed Chinese export wares are very reasonable in the UK. They haven't in America. I noticed there's some action. They're starting to get pricey again. But over in the UK, they're still soft. And you got to deal with the shipping, but if you find the right pieces, I think you could do quite well buying stuff over there right now, because the English economy is in rough shape. We all know that their GDP numbers are not doing very well, and they've got a lot of social problems, and I think a lot of people aren't paying attention. So the art market is maybe leaving some gaps for people to come in and get themselves a great buy. So keep that in mind. All right, and then this is coming up at Freeman's. They have a sale on the 15th of October. There's a number of armorial pieces in the sale. There's some very good ones, and this is one of them. They have also, I believe, a cornucopia dish that we talked about over on Patreon earlier this week. And there's this beautiful export Amari example. It's all Rococo, exceptional quality. Let me see. What are they giving any information on it? Qianlong period, Chinese gilt armorial. Nope, not much. Not much. You'd have to look it up in Howard's book to see whose crest it is. But a beautiful example, and measures 9 1/8 inches in diameter. But very, very good quality. Estimate 3,000 to 5,000. I'm not surprised. $1,500 opening bid, but a good piece. And there's another one in the sale as well as this one, another really fine armorial piece. This one they believe is Yongzhen period. It's a little bit earlier. $2,000 to $3,000 estimate, $1,000 opening bid, but very, very lovely quality. Beautifully done. And this has a name on it. What does it say? Craig Elichif? You could be able to look him up. I bet you could. If you have Howard's book, you could probably look that up. I bet that's in there. Most of the armorial stuff that you're going to find out there is in that book. And it's a great book if you don't have it. Get it if you like armorial wares anyway. It's a kind of expensive. Okay, it's the arms are in Sanctuary Howard. There it is. It is in there. Century decorated the arms of Grant inscribed with the motto "Stand Fast." Craig Alachi. There it is. They already looked it up. Perfect. I didn't notice that before. All right, and then back over here. This is the bunk sale again, and just go through it. There's some beautiful things in here. I'm going to be very curious to see how the weather vanes do. Weather vanes were a huge collectible collection item back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There were people going. You may remember there were people in helicopters stealing weather vanes up in Maine off of the roofs of barns. They're really, really rare zinc weather vanes. There were several of them that were stolen with helicopters, and I believe someone tried to steal the one off Faneuil Hall in Boston with a helicopter. Somehow they managed to get that giant grasshopper weather vane. But some of these weather vanes were made by famous makers and had interesting designs. There's a very good one in here of the Massasoit chief here from Massachusetts. And I'm going to be very curious to see how that does. It already has 18 people watching it. Now, this auction just came up the other day, and the sale isn't until the 21st. The sale isn't for another month. So I'll be very curious to see how this weather vane does. It was made by Harrison Company in Boston. They believe did it during the 19th century and so forth, coming out of a collection that had already been previously sold at Sotheby's some years ago. And if it sold at Sotheby's, it probably, at the time, probably brought $40,000 or $50,000, I would expect. No, it's estimated 30 to 50, so maybe it brought more back then. But these were hot items. That's all I can tell you. This is now estimated 30 to 50 with a $15,000 opening bid, and it's piling up watchers already. All right. Also, there's some armorial pieces in this, the Arms of Clifford. Now, I notice a lot of these, they have a number of armorial pieces in the sale. Some of them have have professional repairs to them. They did put blacklighted images in so you could see it. So you want to check every one of them pretty carefully to make sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying one if it has a beautiful restoration. You really can't see it, and the piece looks as it was intended to look. That's okay, but you don't want to pay a perfect condition price for it. In other words, so you want to check that out. And they have on the pieces that were restored have put in ultraviolet light images, and you can see the lines pretty clearly. This one is estimated $600 to $900 with a $300 opening bid. All right, and then over here's another one. I think is this the one that had some restoration to it. You can't really see it. Hold on. There it is. You can see the lines here, those bright areas. That's what happens when you put the UV on it. It's got a couple of repairs around the rim or hairlines. Some of them have lines going right through them. But this is a very nice looking example. And I love the big black duck at the top. Estimate $600 to $900, $300 opening bid. I think they're all sort of in that price range. And then there's this, a really fine China trade cedar, a cider jug, sort of a Nanking example. Big strap handles, nice arrows, good detail. Gilding is still intact. Very desirable. $300 to $500 estimate, because that's the prices they've been bringing lately. In the 90s, big cider pots like this were selling for $1,200 to $1,600 at auction all the time. That was sort of the standard price for them. Prices have come back. I think you're going to see them going back up again. And right now, I suspect this will probably bring somewhere between $400 and $500. It may go over. You may have somebody there who's buying American furniture in this sale and decide they want to own one of these too to go on the dining table. But it's sort of a wealthy person's game when that happens. All right, and then this is a very rare platter. It's a orange Fitzhugh with an American eagle on it. These are rare. These are just plain rare. And I didn't check this to see if it has any repairs to it. I'm looking for see if they bothered with a, no, looks good. You're going to have some discolor, these bright areas here. Some of that's just from things that have touched it. If anything touches it, or there's old adhesive for a label, it'll show up under a black light because it's not original to the piece. But this looks like a good clean example. This will do really well. It should. It's estimated at $2,000 to $4,000. It measures 14 inches in diameter. And in the past, wasn't that many years ago, these plates were bringing $12,000 to $15,000. They were and even more, depending on how big they are. This one's a very fine example, and again, American Eagle. They bring the American Eagle market stuff of China trade brings more than any other from this period, just by a mile. They just do, because the American collectors get a little crazy. That's all there is to it. They go wild. Also in the sale is this nice Kangxi Woodside decorated jug with a silver top on it. Very attractive, 7¼ inches, 7 inches tall. You get a condition report. The estimate's reasonable, $500 to $700. Nice piece of porcelain with a silver mount added. And then you have this Dutch market Kangxi platter. There it is. Beautiful decoration. I like the figure of the bird in the middle on the rock and so forth. These big lotuses around the sides. It's a good looking plate. And it measures, it's decent size. It's 14 inches in diameter. So that's a fairly big one. $1,500 to $2,000 estimate, but an atypical pattern. This isn't your standard, sort of, export piece. This is a bit unusual. The design is for the European market, obviously. There's the back of it with the conch shell in the center, and then just sprigs of flowers around the outside. Nice looking thing, though. Very good quality. And then hopping along over to this is some of the stuff that's in the sale. There's a Jasper Francis Cropsey painting, for example. He's what if you don't know anything about who he was a Hudson River School painter. He died in 1900. He was known for luminous scenes and rivers. He was a famous painter. His picture, well, this one's estimated at $50,000 to $75,000. $26,000 opening bid. He's got 18 people on it already, and the sale's on the 21st, so it'll probably do pretty well. There's some very, very good American painters in here, and Cropsey was one of the top ones. And it wasn't that long ago. These were even selling for more back in the 90s. The person that owns this probably paid $125,000 for it, I suspect. And then this very good highboy. This is a Queen Anne New England highboy with an old surface. I don't know if it's the original surface, but it's certainly an old surface. And it's got very, very crisp, clean lines for one of these. Nice drawer graduations, nice split drawers at the top, drop pendants and so forth. $7,000 to $10,000, $3,500 opening bid. And there's this. This is sort of an interesting thing. This came from the collection of. It was sold at Northeast Auctions up here many years ago. I think I kind of remember it because I used to go to all the Northeast Auctions back in 2013, and it belonged to Jonathan Schorsch, and he was the father of David Schorsch, the well-known American folk art dealer, and they were a family of dealers, and this was something in his own collection. And it's a wonderful American folk art painting. If you like American folk art, this has nothing to do with Chinese art, but if you like maritime art and American folk art, you might want to look at that. That's a nice looking thing. And the estimate, I think, is reasonable, $3,000 to $5,000. The chances are this painting back in 2013, well, I don't know what it would have brought back then. Probably would have done pretty well, probably about $5,000 to $7,000. But it's a beautiful, beautiful picture, and it's a 19th century one at that. And also is this is a fairly well-known table in particular. It had been sold at Christie's or Sotheby's years ago. It's a Philadelphia table. And it's attributed, the work on it, the carving is attributed to Garvin, who was this sort of legendary craftsman from the 1700s. And did these spectacular carvings. And this has they have the original, I think it was Sotheby's that sold this. They had the Sotheby's listing with this. And it was estimated back then, there's the top of it. There's a Portland Americana, 1997, and it was estimated at $125,000 to $200,000. It was sold by Joseph Kindig, who was one of the top American dealers at the time. And there's this beautiful, beautiful leg. And now it's back on the market, estimated $30,000 to $50,000. And $15,000 opening bid. And I suspect it probably brought that estimate back in the day. I don't remember what it was, but things back then didn't often go below estimate. And it probably did sell for $175,000 to $200,000 back then. And now it's up for sale for $50,000. And that just shows you, again, how much the American furniture slid off after about 2003, 2004. Really, really took a hit. And it was also because a lot of the dealers that made the market makers for that, had passed away or retired. And without market makers, markets don't stay up for very long. They tend to fall down. And that's what happened. And then this is coming up at Adams over in Ireland. They've got a sale. They've got a nice looking sale. There's a few bits of armorial ware in it that are pretty good, I think. So always check out that place. Adams is a nice auction house too. I had some interactions with them, and they're very pleasant people. And helpful, and they respond to emails. So if you're interested in the sale and you want to do something with them, I think they'd be a good option. And they include 2 pictures, front and back, so they get an A+ for that. All right, and this is some of the no, who's this? Is this Brunks again? This is the Adams sale. Excuse me. This is the Adams auction, and as you can see, there's some nice things. You get some good carpets, some good furniture in here, whippet and dogs and all kinds of. It's very British. Lots of dogs, urns, chairs, you name it. They run nice. They have good-looking stuff. They get some good estates over there for sure. Oh, this is in the sale too. This terrine. This great big Famille Rose Chinlung terrine in the sale with boar's head handles on the ends. I think they're boar's heads. Or are they rabbits? Oh, the rabbit handles. That's even better. Boar's head are very common, but they tend to have flat noses on them. These look like bunnies. That's kind of cool. All right, so that sort of covers it for the week. There's some more and more sales will be coming along. There's some Asia sales that will be coming up in another couple of months. There's going to be, I believe, some Chinese sales over in Hong Kong the end of this month. We're going to check into. We'll take a look when we get back home, and so forth. But for now, we're here for another day, and I hope everybody's having a nice week. And it's very pleasant here today. It rained for a day or two, and now it's about 70, 75 degrees, a little humid, not bad. And the smell of pine trees are everywhere, so it's awfully nice here. Anyway, you can see the big trees. One of those big trees landed on the house you may recall, a winter ago. It did some real damage. We had to replace all the appliances. It shorted out the electrical system. Another story. All right, have a great week, and thanks for watching. All right, bye-bye.